So I know it's been hard with you guys at homebound understanding the math that we're doing in here, and so I decided to make a notes video of our area and circumference, which is what we're doing next, of circles. Okay, so go ahead and follow along, take your own notes as we go. So we're talking about area and circumference of circles. Okay, and so to get us started, let's go ahead and talk about the parts of a circle, so that way when it comes to our formulas we can understand those a little bit better. Okay, so first off we're going to talk about the diameter. Of a circle, and this is the full length across a circle. And this is through the middle. Or through the center of the circle. Okay, so here's a picture. So a circle, and the center's right here, and it's very important we remember the center, because if we don't, then you'll be getting something else. So like from here to here, that is not the diameter, even though it's across the circle. We need the full length, and so we got to go through the center. So from here to here, all the way across the circle. And any way you go around the circle, any line you make from one edge to another across this circle will all be the same. So they're all diameters. From here across through the center to here, from here through the center to here, from here through the center to here. Those are all diameters, and they're all the same length on any one circle. And so whenever we see this in a problem, we're going to use d, little d, to let you know you're using diameter. The next thing is the radius. Okay, and radius is half the distance across the circle, or half the length. If I could. Okay, so you can see, whereas diameter is the full length across the circle, the radius is half the length, and this is still going through the center. From the center to any edge. So here's another picture of our radius. Okay, so from the center to any edge, and you can do center to this edge, center over here to this edge, center up to that edge. It doesn't matter, that is all the radius, and so we use the little r in our formulas. And so if you notice, right, our diameter is the full length across the circle, our radius is half, and so anytime you're given the radius and you want to know the diameter, all you have to do is multiply that radius times 2, because any 2 radius will give you the diameter. So let me put that up here for diameter. 2 times the radius equals your diameter. Or you can add it, radius plus radius will also give you the diameter. And so in reverse, if you're given the diameter and you want to know the radius, you would just need to take the diameter and divide it by 2, and that'll give you your radius. Okay. So next thing, which isn't really part of our circle, but it's important and able to find our circumference or our area, is we call this pi. So this is the pi symbol. And if you wanted to write it, it's spelled P-I instead of P-I-E. It's not the pie you eat, but the mathematical pi. And all this is, it's a Greek letter. And we use it to represent the ratio of the circumference to the diameter and we use it to represent a number. Pi is equivalent, not exactly equal to, but equivalent to 3.141592. And pi, the number for pi goes on and on and on and on forever, but we say the ratio because ratio represents division, and so if you divide any circumference by its diameter, you're going to get this number. So that's what that represents. And that dot 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 means it goes on and on and on forever. So if you looked up the digits of pi, you would see that they continue to go on and on and on forever. For any math purposes, you can just use 3.14 for any math purposes that you use pi for. Okay. So moving on, so now our formulas. So we have been, for these notes, we want to figure out the area and the circumference of circles. And so let's start with circumference. Okay, and the circumference is the distance that measures around the outside of any circle. Okay, so again, I'll draw a picture of this. So the distance that measures around the outside of any circle. Okay, so here's our circle, and we're just measuring around the outside. And in class, I was singing a song, around the outside, circumference measures around the outside. And also, later on, I was thinking about how just like perimeter, okay, it's the outside of any shape. I think of this last part, this F inch, kind of reminds me of a circumference. You could put up a fence around your figure, so if that kind of helps you, anything to help you remember what circumference is. Now like I said, it's like perimeter, so if that also helps you. We would use C for circumference, like up here I said. We would use D for diameter, R for radius. Down here we're going to use C for circumference, and so circumference equals, you can use diameter times pi to figure out the circumference. Or if you're given the radius and you need to find circumference, right, because if you were given the full distance across your circle, you could use that, times it by pi to get circumference. Or if you're given half, you're going to have to multiply that radius by 2, so it's helpful to just go ahead and have a formula for that. So 2 times whatever your radius is, that'll give you your diameter, and then you can multiply that by pi to get your circumference. Okay. Now we're going to move on to area. And so we've talked about area in other ways, but area for other shapes, I mean, but for area, it's just the amount of space inside of the circle. The amount of space inside the circle. So whereas last time we were measuring the distance around the circle, this time we're talking about how much space is on the inside of our circle. Okay. So we also have a formula for this that you're going to need to know. So for area, we're just going to use A. And the area is equal to radius times pi, and a lot of times on formula sheets and stuff you'll see it written as area equals radius squared times pi, and all radius squared is radius times radius. So I've just been telling the kids it's easier for them to remember radius times pi. And when you have area, you are always using square units. Always. So you can put a big star like that. Okay. You're always using square units, which means, so if your, let's say your radius is 5 centimeters, okay? In order to find area, we would multiply 5 times pi, and so this will give you A equals 25 times pi, and then I said you could use 3.14, so 25 times 3.14. Pull out my calculator here. So 5 times 5, 25 times 3.14. Okay, and you're going to get 78.5. Okay, and our answer needs to be centimeters squared. So that's where those square units come into play. And we need these, your unit, whether it's centimeters, inches, miles, anything like that, we need that to have the little 2 up there, so it's centimeters squared. So I'm going to write down some examples for you to do. That way you can practice some on your own. And I'll go ahead and pause the video and work it out, and then you can look at my answers after you're done. So number 1 here. This very first one, you're going to find the diameter. Find the diameter of that figure. So this would be where you pause the video. Now remember, the diameter is the full length across the circle, and we are given the half, and so that's the radius. And so in order to find the diameter, we're going to need to multiply our radius times 2. So 2 times 2.7, that'll give us our diameter. Or you can add 2.7 plus 2.7, and that'll give you 5.4. And don't forget your unit, which is meters, on your answer there. Okay, example 2. We're going to find the radius this time. Again, go ahead and pause the video and find the radius. So on this one, since we're given the diameter, because that's the full length across the circle, we need to find the radius, which is half the length across the circle. And so we'll take the diameter and we'll divide it by 2. That gives us 7, don't forget your unit, inches. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, this time we're going to find the area and the circumference of the circle. Okay, help you out here, I'll give you your formulas, or you can go back and look at them. So area, radius times pi, and circumference, diameter times pi. So go ahead and pause the video and work on those. Now, remember, for area, we need the radius, and over here we were given the diameter. Okay, so we're going to have to, first off, to find the area, we're going to have to divide our diameter by 2 to find the radius. Okay, so in my calculator, I'm going to take 21 divide 2 and get 10.5. Okay. And then I'm going to take 10.5, that's now my radius, and so I can put it into my formula. So I have area is equal to 10.5 times 10.5 times pi, and remember you can use 3.14. Okay, so again, in my calculator, I'm going to multiply 10.5 times 10.5, and that gives me 110.25. okay? Times, bring down your 3.14 because we haven't used that yet. And then in my calculator, I'll put times 3.14, and that gives me 346.185. And you can just round it to the nearest tenths place, so 0.2. And remember, for area, we need our unit and we need it squared. So we need centimeters squared. Okay, so now we need to do the circumference. So remember, circumference is equal to diameter times pi. Our diameter, we are given that, so 21 times pi, or 21 times 3.14. Again, we'll come over to our calculator, 21 times 3.14. Put that in there, we have 65.94. And since your 4 is not gonna affect your 9, you can just leave it as 65.9. So circumference is equal to 65.94 or 9. And don't forget your centimeters. Now since this one is an area, you just need centimeters on there. You don't need centimeters squared. So here are our two answers, our area, our circumference. Okay, let's do one more of those. Okay, so this time we're again going to find the area and circumference. Okay, but this time I'm going to give you your radius. So from here to here, that's going to be 5.3 miles. So pretend we're talking about a very big area here, very big place. So again, go ahead and pause the video. I'll give you your formulas. Okay, so this time we were given the radius because that's half the distance of the circle. So we can just go ahead and put it in our area formula. So area equals 5.3 times 5.3 times 3.14. And my calculator, 5.3 times 5.3 equals 28.09. And you can just round it to 28.1. And then we still need to multiply that by pi. So 28.1 times 3.14 is equal to 88.234. And again, you can just round it to the nearest tens place, so 88.2. And we need our unit, which is miles, and since this is area, we're going to square it. Then we need to do the circumference. Now, since we were given the radius, let's use this one because we're going to have to change it to diameter to be able to multiply it by pi. So we have our circumference is equal to 2 times 5.3 times pi, or 3.14. Okay, so first off, in order to find the diameter, I got to multiply that 5.3 by 2. So 5.3 times 2 gives me 10.6. Okay, then I still got to multiply it by pi. So 10.6 times 3.14 gives me 33.284. And since I'm gonna do it to the nearest tenths place, so that 8 is gonna round my 2 up to a 3. So that gives me 33.3, and we still need our unit, which is miles. Okay, and since this isn't area, we don't have to put the 2 up there. Okay. Okay, now we have been doing some other types of examples, so I want to go through that with you. So let's say you were given your circumference and you want to find your area. Okay. Now you're gonna have to work backwards here because so going around down your circumference, let's say they give that to you, your circumference is equal to let's say 437 meters. Okay. So we know that the formula for circumference is diameter times pi. We also know that in order to find area, we need to know our radius, right? Because radius times pi. Okay, so to get our radius from our circumference, okay, we're gonna have to do this backwards because we'll figure out the diameter, but then after that we're gonna have to divide that by 2 to find our radius. So let's take our circumference, which is 437. Remember, pi is a number. It stands for 3.14, and so since we're looking for an unknown, we can do the opposite to figure that out. So diameter times 3.14. Since we're multiplying by d, we can do the opposite to solve for d. So let's divide instead of multiply by 3.14. We're going to divide this side by 3.14. And so those are opposites, so they cancel, and we're left with d over here. And then if we divide 437 divided by 3.14, we're going to get 139, and you can just round it to 0.2. Okay, so that tells us our diameter, right? And again, we're trying to figure out our area, so we need to know our radius, and so with diameter we're going to have to divide that by 2. Okay, so 139.2 divided by 2 is going to give us 69.6. Okay, so this is our radius. That's what we need in order to find the area. Okay, so area equals 69.6 times 69.6 times 3.14. Okay, so 69.6 times 69.6 equals, big number here, 4,844.16. We still need to multiply that times pi, so times 3.14, and that gives us an area of 15,210.7 And remember, we're talking about meters. So we need our meters, and since this is area, we need squared, okay? So again, we can undo all of this, okay, by doing our opposite operations in order to figure out the radius or the diameter, and then we can use that to find our area, okay?